let's watch strange characters that won Melee. Guys, in Melee, in terms of today, dude, Melee is just so crazy, right? It's so crazy because we see players like Junebug. We saw the Pichu cheater. I'm just kidding. No, but like we're seeing like a lot of low tiers just doing really good in Melee. I think we saw like Rocket, right? I think he's from Chile. He plays Young Link. Like that's crazy. The fact that we're seeing like so many low tiers coming out in Melee in the year 2025. I think we saw like Game & Watches in like top 64 at one tournament. Maybe it was Genesis, I believe. I don't know, but it's just crazy, dude. It's a crazy time, and I'm so happy that we're seeing so much character diversity in Melee in 2025 or these days. So let's watch this.
Do you have to use the best character if you want to win?
No, that is not true. I play Falco, and sometimes I do get beat. I do get beat sometimes, but in the end of the day, we have to strive to beat these characters no matter what, because we want us Falco mains. Whoever's a Falco main just like me, we know the struggle of having to recover against Marth. Yes, we know that. So guys, Falco players, we got this.
Many players think yes, but over the years, a few have believed in the unique value that a worse.
Oh yeah, Roy. I remember that when. Yeah, I remember when Zane won.
Three of the weakest characters ever.
I did a video on that.
Able to win huge tournaments despite them being so bad that it didn't even seem possible. But first, what does it even mean for a character to be bad or even good?
Oh yeah, Kirby is so trash. Kirby is so trash. But if you beat like good ass players using low tiers, dude, it's so satisfying. It actually is. It's so satisfying. That's one of my favorite things about Melee.
Well, fortunately for fighting game players, we have this thing called tier lists, which are supposed to help us determine how good characters are.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if like games like COD have like high tier guns, you know? Like things like that. I'm wondering about that.
Supposed to, because well, these lists can be super subjective. In a lot of fighting games, tier lists can be a constantly moving object, since balance patches, buffs, and nerfs can completely change the competitive landscape of a game. Melee, however, in its over 2 decades of competitive play,
yeah, that match was so fire, dude. That match was so good.
I guess technically, it has been patched. There was an international
low-key PAL,
called PAL, which had some rather significant...
No, PAL is trash. NTSC is the best version.
Changes to some of the game's widely considered best characters. But
no!
For the sake of this video, we're not going to be considering that one.
Even Marth can't
characters and not
yeah, like the thing about PAL is like it just kind of ruins like the satisfying combos, right? Like with NTSC, the American version, bro, like the combos just, you know, they just obviously feel better because they confirm, right? Like these combos confirm to a kill, but in NTSC or PAL, the European versions, they don't. Like you can get off of these like guaranteed combos, you know.
Not a single one has been altered in any way. So perhaps rightfully so, in early Melee, many people believed that if you wanted to be truly competitive in the game, there were only like a few characters that you could reasonably use. And that kind of tracks with the early years of competitive Melee.
That is so crazy.
Fox, Falco, Sheik, and Marth were characters that we all know.
I think it's so crazy how like old Melee is. Just look at this. This is a CRT TV. The fact that MLG was around back then too is just so crazy too. Like 2005, 2004, whatever, like or like early 2000s. Oh my god, that's like that. It's honestly the main reason why I started playing Melee, because back in like 2013, right, I was pretty into COD and I played a lot of COD. And during those times, MLG was like this crazy, like, you know, it was the most known esports league at the time. And the fact that in the Smash Bros documentary, I saw MLG in 2005. I'm like, yo, MLG has been around for so long, and they hosted Melee tournaments. Like it was crazy and amazing.
Now as staples of the competitive
I'm like, wow,
scene.
there's history.
Melee's more
or
less universal best characters all have some combination of similar good attributes.
I love doing that.
Fast movement speed, good combos, good frame data, reliable tools on offense or defense. But just because the best characters have a bunch of these traits doesn't mean that characters with fewer of them can't succeed. Most recently, in 2024,
I know, look at that,
become a character deemed in a renaissance, despite not having many of these attributes. WizTunes made a really excellent.
Bro, it's crazy because when I played Donkey Kong online, like you're like, oh my god, Donkey Kong is actually a good character, and like I cannot believe that we did not know about that. And like in the the whole history of Melee, there's only been a few DK players, right? Like that one Donkey Kong player who made it pretty far, I believe, in MLG back in like 2005, I believe. And there was also Green Ranger, the old DK player. I don't know what happened to him. And now we have Junebug, so I'm really excited. And there's like other players too, right? Other DK players like Ringler. He's been around for a while. And who else? I think some German DK, I believe. Yeah, there's a lot.
Video documenting this rise to prominence, by the way, so you should check that out if you haven't already. But long story short, DK really didn't have a ton of players, and the character was in a pretty weird place of existing almost entirely in its own competitive bucket. It was the closest thing Smash had to the grappler archetype. DK was big,
it's true.
Slow, and
it's a grab character, like kind of like Sheik, right?
Some pretty good range and an absolutely
look at the combos
devastating punishment off of a single grab.
Easy combos
DK
too.
Had a unique mechanic to the rest
yeah, look at that up B.
Cargo throw, where he could literally pick an opponent up and carry them wherever he wanted. And the release of an online ranked mode of Melee near the end of 2022 saw a huge surge of players making it into the top 50.
That's what it literally changed everything. Slippy changed everything.
Individual performances from a number of really good players. Ringler, a player from
Ringler. That match was so good, and it sucks because, of course, Leffen had to bring out Sheik. I hate Sheik players so much, dude. I mean, Leffen isn't a Sheik player, but you know what I mean, right? I hate Sheik.
And Zane, two of the best players in the game, to a final game in a best-of-5 set. Quang, a player from Michigan.
Yeah, Quang, yeah. Dude, Michigan players are always good, dude. They're always good.
Summer
he beat Ossify? Wow.
Akir from Florida demolished Hungry
Akir too, yeah, I know.
Melee with a 3-0 set win at an online event. And the biggest upset of 2024,
oh yes, I remember this
ever by seeding, happened at Gomelex, where Bing seeded 64
Bing.
Beat the number
that
one
was crazy. That has to be like the biggest upset of all time. Literally, that has to be the biggest upset of all time. Like I remember back then, people were saying Kage versus Mango, right? Like Ganondorf versus Jigglypuff. But I think this is different. Like this is 2025. Like it's a whole different metagame.
Cody Schwab. While all of these are unbelievable achievements, none of these players were actually able to win a tournament. And the Donkey Kong who was able to do it was actually at one point the best player in the world for another underappreciated game by Nintendo.
Project M, right?
Redacted. No!
Project M, we know about that.
No PM. It's PM. Junebug was formerly the best Project
Diddy Kong,
in the world around 2015, and
PM during that time was fire.
The secondary Kong protagonist there, Diddy Kong. How he landed on Donkey Kong in Melee, though, was basically just the result of a thought experiment for his YouTube channel.
know, that was crazy. I remember watching like. I remember I used to work at in retail. I remember waking up at like 6 a.m. going to work, and all of a sudden I see this video, I think from Rishi or Junebug, talking about Donkey Kong. And I was like, oh shit, like this is interesting. I think it was during the pandemic time too. And then all of a sudden we see Junebug playing Donkey Kong. I'm like, yo, it's crazy.
Channel where he would just play random characters for months at a time to compare how they worked in Melee to PM, but he ended up really liking DK. So much so that he went ahead and won an entire tournament with the character. Near the end of 2023, right? Junebug clocked the highest placement for a Donkey Kong player at a this is a stupid stat, okay? A North American post-online era Melee major, where he finished 13th at the Big House 11. He followed that up in 2024.
Dude, Ginger, he
17th
lost
at Collision and a 33rd at Tipped Off 15, but convinced his character had what it took. Junebug once again.
Boom! I like that wind up. You see that?
2024.
I like that.
Raleigh, North Carolina, and he won the whole thing. On his path, Junebug beat 3 ranked players from the previous 2023 season: Crike, number 49, who was playing Ice Climbers, Alvar, number 74, and Salt, number 14.
Oh, that was crazy. Yeah.
Players in the world in 2 sets. Ice Climbers and Captain Falcon.
Dude, look at this.
Really
wow.
Matchups for Donkey Kong, making this one even more impressive. But I have like a full 30-minute analysis on that in another video, so you can check that out.
The work ethic is crazy.
Here, I guess. But
yeah, he makes a lot of good videos.
His Big House 11 run the same year by getting 3rd place at Supernova 2024, making this the single best performance a Donkey Kong player had ever gotten in Melee history. This run over the single best performance a Donkey Kong
got like
player
5th,
had
right?
Place at Supernova. He would later go on to best his Big House 11 run the same year.
Got 5th,
by
right?
3rd place.
Oh,
at
3rd.
2024.
Oh yeah.
The single best
he lost to Mango, right?
Donkey Kong player had ever gotten in Melee history. This run overtook Bum, who was known as
the
best
Bum,
player in the early days of Melee, who had gotten 4th at
MLG Long Island 2007 versus M2K.
And okay,
dude,
like
that confirmed kill is so fire. I love it. Throw.
I had a sponsor deadline here. Hey, speaking of. Thank you to my good friends at Into the AM for sponsoring today's video. Into the AM is a team of artists and creators that's been outfitting your passion since 2012. They've been releasing a ton of new collections over this past year, from graphic tees and tanks to Hawaiians to pants and shorts, and they have a sale going on pretty much every month of the year. I'm literally wearing at least one item from Into the AM every single day, and I've enjoyed working with them so much that I've even bought some items for myself outside of the stuff that they usually send to me. If you're interested in upping your fashion a bit or just want to try out some new clothes in the holiday season, I would highly recommend this company. You can use my promo code WALT at checkout or go to intotheam.com/Walt to get an additional 10% off at checkout, which is on top of any sale they may be running. Using that link also affords me a small commission and also kind of informs Into the AM that I'm doing a good job, so it would help me out a ton. This is going to be my last collaboration with them for the year, by the way, but I'm really looking forward to working more with Into the AM in 2025, and I know they'll be releasing even more amazing clothing. I also just want to quickly say thank you to you guys for supporting the channels this year, as well as all of these integrations from Into the AM and otherwise. I know ad spots are often met with an eye roll, and I get why, but these do give me a bit more financial freedom to make videos more frequently, so just know I appreciate you guys a ton.
Hey, it's true, right?
Okay, I think that's all. Check out Into the AM if you're interested, and let's get back into today's video. The next character on our list, unlike Donkey Kong, just doesn't really have that much of an X factor. In fact, at first glance, it's a character where a lot of people would think you may as well just use Fox.
Yeah, low-key, that is true. Because practically, Pikachu's the same character as Fox, pretty much. Except for like a few differences, right? Like the tail spike and stuff like that. It's pretty much a shine, right? It's pretty much a sign. Is that the reason why Axe started playing Fox now?
Who's that Pokemon? It's Pikachu!
Fuck! I remember that.
Pikachu is kind of the opposite of
That's like an old Vine.
He's fast, small, and pretty annoying. Similar to DK, Pikachu can win by getting grabs, but they're often meant to
pretty much a shine right there.
Edge guards at low percent rather than really long extended punishes.
Oh yeah, this was crazy. The fact that Junebug destroyed X.
Because Pikachu is so small, he kind of struggles in the range department, so he has to use mix-ups and cross-ups to try to catch opponents in bad positions. And for many reasons, a lot of players in the early days of Melee ended up calling Pikachu a budget Fox, since on a more technical side, they had the same jump squat, which made switching between them feel a bit more natural, and on a more general side, they could be played in a very similar rushdown heavy style. Axe had been a Pikachu player since the very beginning though, even peaking at Global Rank 3 in the summer of 2019. He got super close to finding his first ever major victories in that year too, getting 2nd place at 2 different tournaments in the first half of the year, Genesis 6 and Gommel 2019.
Bro, he should have looked to use Fox.
Champions of underrepresented characters, Axe's phenomenal 2019 had him convinced he could go all the way, despite some attempts with Fox for certain matchups. And on June 13th, 2019, the 8th iteration of the Invitational Tournament Series Smash Summit had taken place. Hosted at the former Beyond the Summit.
Oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah, I remember this.
Was intended to give fans a more behind-the-scenes and casual feel.
Yeah, dude, I remember like the fact that Pikachu also won a tournament. Oh my god, Yoshi! Oh my god, it's crazy.
And was inspired by Take TV's Home Story Cup for StarCraft 2. For the Melee variant of this event, a select number of players would attend either by virtue of an invitation from the BTS team, wildcard slots given to the top finishers at specific qualifier events, or player-driven campaigns with a fan vote-in process. And Axe was one of the 8 players invited due to his high overall ranking.
Jojo.
He ended up performing okay in his pool, which ultimately decided his overall seed in bracket. And after set wins over Zane, Mango,
that pop-off,
he would make it into grand finals on the winner's side, something he wasn't able to do at Genesis or Gommel. Wizrobe, who played Captain Falcon, had made it back to grand finals here on the...
Bro, that was crazy too. The fact that Wizrobe also defeated Hungrybox, I think twice, right? Was it twice?
Loser side. And by the way, just as like a brief tangent, Captain Falcon is sort of an honorary or meme bad character entry.
Yeah,
largely because there was this like unspoken prophecy that Captain Falcon would never be able to win a major.
But look what happened. Look what happened.
2 weeks before Smash Summit 8, Wizrobe had one Smash and Splash spot, which was crazy, but it also gave us one of the most electric pop-offs of that year as well.
Nee.
That's it.
Okay, I'm sorry, tangent over. Anyway, let's
That
get
was
back
so
to Axe.
cool, dude.
Grand Finals for Smash Summit 8, and for the literal first time ever in major tournament history, we would have a Pikachu up against a Captain Falcon to win a major. A second place exit would give one of these players about $6,000, while a win here would guarantee almost twice that at close to $11,000.
Damn.
And for two pretty unique characters to be fighting for that here, made that event a really big deal. While Wizard was able to win the first set to reset the bracket, Axe still had that extra set of buffer because he came from the winner's side, which he would leverage heavily by going up 2-0. After all, he had already beaten Wizzy once to make it into Grand Finals, and now that he was up 2 games, he had the luxury of counterpicks on his side. And even after dropping one of his games of buffer, Axe was able to win his and Pikachu's first ever major, becoming one of only around 20 players at that time to have done so in the game's history.
Oh, what a sneaky up air!
Oh, it's over right there.
Here we go. This is what's he gonna get here. Up smash.
Oh my god, you see this?
He's off stage. Is your smash?
I cannot believe that.
He's done it.
I cannot believe that.
Oh my.
I still cannot believe that a Pikachu still won. I cannot believe that, dude. I cannot believe that. Out of so many years of Melee, and like it's still changing, it's evolving. Oh my god, this game is just it's so unique.
After a year of second place victories,
I love Melee, dude. It's honestly, yeah, my favorite game of all time. Obviously, it is. I play it so much, so many years, 10 plus years in the competitive scene. Yes, it's the best game of all time, in my opinion. And I mean, other games like Earthbound and Donkey Kong Country 2, of course. But Melee always takes number 1. But aside from that, there's others, you know.
He's on the verge.
He did it.
He is now the champion. Congratulations to Tempo Axe, the Smash Summit 8 champ.
It's not that Axe's Pikachu was the strongest character to pick, quite the opposite actually, but Pikachu did something uniquely good in all of the matches he had to play for his bracket. Versus Zane playing Marth, Axe was literally undefeated against that character for about 10 years until that streak was broken in 2022.
Damn, really?
Playing Falco and Fox, he could leverage Pikachu's early Gimp abilities against a character known to have exploitable recoveries. And versus Wizard's Captain Falcon, we could see how well stages came into effect, with a chain grab on Final Destination allowing Axe to cross the finish line. Even after his win, not many competitive players dared to try out this Pokemon, and no one has ever gotten this close since. And while the two characters we've talked about so far are now more or less relevant in today's meta thanks to these players, this next character was one seen as so weird,
Yoshi,
so different, and so, well, bad that it was barely used by anyone.
Literally.
Well, except for one player. AMSA began entering tournaments in 2013, and during that time there were hardly...
You hear that? You hear that, guys? He started playing in 2013. That is so, oh my god, the meteoric rise of AMSA. His first tournament was, I think, Evo 2013, or maybe a second tournament, Evo 2013. He already entered, like, you know, a major right away, and I think took a game off Mewtwo King. Like, what the how does that happen? Like, when that happens, that tells you everything about that player, like who they are.
Any Yoshi players. In fact, the tier list at that time placed him...
Yoshi was F tier back then? Oh my god.
As the 6th worst...
The only character that can actually parry. That's the only character that can parry.
Character in the game for a lot of reasons.
Wow.
Yoshi was just strange. He couldn't jump out of his shield, a technique literally the entire rest of the cast could do, which put him at a huge disadvantage on the defense. His up B, meant to be a recovery move for all characters, was pretty much useless for getting back to the stage, and he was overall just a functionally different character from the rest of the cast.
It's such a different character
mechanic that only a few other characters sort of had. But AMSA always believed in Yoshi, and within his first year of competing, he was already ranked as the 77th best player in the world, and even peaked as the second best player in the world at the end of 2022.
Wow.
Second was the key word here, though. Although AMSA had gotten incredibly good at the game, he
Yeah.
had still never won that coveted major tournament. He got
Yeah.
super close at tournaments like Pound and Double.
There were so many times where where Yoshi or AMSA could have won, but Cody always put a stop to it, and that always got me mad. Cause like Cody's always the one who is like the momentum killer. He's the momentum killer, and I hate that. I'm like, dude, Amsa's playing so good. And here comes Cody, like, taking it all away. Maybe it's like 2-0, then somehow it's a reverse 3-0 and Cody wins. It's like, oh my god.
Where he wound up standing on the podium, but just not
See?
at the very top of it.
Oh, Amsa. This is grand finals.
But just not at the very top of it. What really solidified his place among the tippy top, though, was an event on October 9th, 2022, where nearly 1,000 competitors played at the Big House 10. Amsa,
I'm not gonna lie, guys, but when Amsa won, I legitimately cried because I was following Amsa right when he started playing. I was following him. Like, I saw his journey. Going from 0 to hero. I'm like, oh my goodness. He made history.
was, of course, among that top talent.
He made history. Yoshi's story. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Pundits of the game were skeptical of his chances at best.
The narrative has been that Amsa can win a tournament, but like,
nah, he really.
The theory was, well, he could if. Like, the theory was,
he
okay,
kind of missed his window.
But like his steadfast belief in Yoshi, Amsa never gave up, and he always played to win. He beat some of the best players in the world on a march to grand finals on the winner's side, including a win over Hungrybox, who had certainly had his number up until that point, and one over Mango, who was playing the best he had looked all year. Mango, called by Scar as one of the grittiest players he's ever known, showed that same grit to make it back into grand finals on the loser's side, and stood between Amsa
and that tournament, like you can just tell that Mango was super hungry to win. That you could just tell. You could just see it in Mango's eyes and his gameplay that Mango wanted to win so bad.
2 games would pass going to Amsa, even shocking the commentators to merely think that a Yoshi could win over 20 years into Melee's release. But Mango wouldn't go down without a fight. If you're Amsa, you could lose here and go into the second set against the grittiest player in Melee, known as the King of Losers Runs. Or win now and become a champion.
And the crowd is saying, Amsa, unambiguously, but open up! Oh!
Parry. Jab reset. Jab reset.
Look at it! Look at it!
Wow, I cannot believe that.
In a way, it's kind of poetic that the last stock Amsa had to take to win one of the most stacked tournaments ever came from one of the first techniques he had ever practiced, the parry. Amsa, a player who had never given up, a player who had always played to win.
I remember this. I saw this tournament.
His character might have been perceived, had done it. This was
Amsa's
Amsa's first ever
This
major
is
win,
2014,
coming at an event
right?
many considered to be the most stacked ever, as well as the first tournament a Yoshi would win, making it the first major Melee tournament won with a new character since Axe at that Smash Summit 8. And I guess all he needed was that first one, because after this momentous win, Amsa would go on to win 2 more majors in 2022, at Apex and the Scuff World Tour. And he's still one of the only Yoshis out there who could do it.
And by the way, it's not just the first Big House he's won, it's the first major. The first major he's ever won, and it's the hardest one ever.
Wow.
So, do you need to use the best character in order to win? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, hell, even in today's modern metagame, players are taking...
Look, yeah, even nowadays, like you don't need to play Fox to win, right? It's like, no, there's proof right there. It's going to be harder, right? It's obviously going to be easier at locals and regionals to win a big tournament, right? With Yoshi or Donkey Kong or even Zelda or Kirby or whatever, right? Like, look, back then when Triple R was active in the Melee community, he would win like tournaments, right? Like he would win tournaments with Kirby. You know what I mean?
Characters to heights never before seen. But what these 3 weaker characters have in common is that the players who decided to use them all had a reason to do so. They wanted to have fun, and they still wanted to win.
Yeah.
They didn't use these characters because they were weak, they used them in spite of it. And I think that kind of rules. Thanks for watching.
Oh, good video, good video.
Hey, thanks so much for watching.
That was a good video. I give it a like. So guys, yeah, go watch his other videos. Yeah, a good video here.